Hello, hello, hello. Oh, my life, mate. I woke up this morning and I looked in the mirror and I realised it was my last day in my 30s and I was going to be 40 tomorrow. And I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh, my life, look what has happened to you. Look what has happened to you, mate. You have aged terribly. You have aged hideously, mate. You are my life. You look, your forehead's like a road map. You've lost your hair. You've somehow managed to grow a very, very long white beard, and you're now going to sign into entropy, which means you're going to have to briefly turn off the microphone. And you've just aged absolutely hideously. And oh my life, how has this happened to you? And I just looked in the mirror and I realised that's it. It's the end of my 30s, and I'm going to be 40 tomorrow. And the entropy's been very slow, by the way. And oh no, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So hello, and welcome to this edition of the Jolly Heretic. And thank you for joining me here on my special birthday, 40th birthday edition. I'm going to be 40 tomorrow. Today is the very, very final day in which I can say that I will be in my 30s. And hello, and welcome everybody, and thank you for the people that have wished me happy birthday in Welsh. That's extremely kind of you. I must say, having a fake beard doesn't really work for me. It's not really my cup of tea. Hello, winter in the forest. Hello, midlife crisis coughing. Yeah, well, that should be coming. That should be coming. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to avail myself of when my father had a midlife crisis, he availed himself of he joined a surfing club. And he started doing that for a bit. That was his cope. So some people, I'm told, buy a sports car, officially a boomer. Yeah, well, not quite a boomer. Whoever it was that said that, not quite a boomer. But I think I'm not quite a millennial either. I'm sort of at that border, that grey area where you're not quite a millennial and you're not quite Generation X, whatever it is. So yeah. So hello everybody, and thank you for your birthday wishes. And I hope everybody is. No, we don't have the person's birthday spanking. We don't have that concept in England. I think that's a very American thing. Americans are so group selected, as you'll see in my recent paper on corporal punishment in the journal Medical Hypotheses. They're so group selected that they're very into corporal punishment, and they have this concept. But no, we're not as group selected, so we don't have that. Thank you, Trondheim. Thank you for your various birthday wishes. Thank you again. You have an Irish name, Comiando Mercado, that I can't really pronounce. So I'm terribly sorry. But hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Jolly Heretic, the last edition of the Jolly Heretic, in which the landlord of the Jolly Heretic will be in his 30s. And as usual, as per is the tradition on the Jolly Heretic, before we commence, thank you, Carlotta. Carlotta our bouncer at the Jolly Heretic there, and thank you, Carlotta, for your birthday present, which you very kindly sent me, which I shall read out later. Thank you so much for all that. Cheers, coughing, cheers, everybody. So I hope you are armed with your beers or whatever it is that you. Tradthought boomer, says Carlotta. Yes, I suppose I probably am. Yes, it's odd. It's odd, really, because when you think the idea of seeing someone as 40. I don't think of myself as 40. 40 is the kind of age that my dad should be. I think of my dad as 40. And when I was 12, my dad turned 40, and we organised a surprise birthday party for him at a pub in Thames Ditton. Called the Coach and Horses. And that's how I feel. I feel that your dad is 40, your dad is 40, your mum is 40, and you're not. But the problem is that for your dad to be 40, you have to be a teenager. And I am most certainly not a teenager these days. Those days are most certainly over. Anyway, cheers, everybody. I must feel so vital, says Foster W. That's most kind of you, sir. That's I do. I feel as vital as I felt when I was 15. Cheers, no names. Cheers, everybody. This is a Spitfire Amber Ale, which I'm imbibing today at the Jolly Heretic. When I was 12, my dad turned 55, says Konata Chan. Oh, so he was 43 when you were born. I suppose that's within the bounds of respectability in terms of mutant sperm. Once you're getting to 50, it's getting a bit complicated. Thank you, whoever it is that's writing in Scots Gaelic. Unfortunately, my ability to read Scots Gaelic is extremely limited. It's to things like Cabot Harshif, Hargamar Tarpuli, Fructi, That kind of thing. It's terribly, terribly basic. Hello, Toothpick Van Wood. Hello, everybody. So, welcome to this edition of the Jolly Heretic. Now, as you know, we had a very interesting guest on the last edition of the Jolly Heretic in the form of the academic agent, and that went jolly well, and we had a very large number of viewers because he brought all his friends over, and so that was jolly good, and he's agreed that he will come on again at some point, so that's good as well. I have a very special guest for you lined up on Monday, but I'm not going to tell you who that is yet. I'll tell you who that is later. But I do have a buggery hell of a lot of questions to get through from the lovely super chats you've been sending in to me to support the channel. And so I will have a look at those. So first of all, we have a question from Yehudi Finkelstein, who is, of course, a long-time supporter of the channel and is often sending us very based questions. And he says, I remember our dear departed Michael saw a huge tit from his window during one of the streams. In response to your thumbnail, that's the thumbnail with reference to Sanna Marin of last Thursday, what country has the biggest tit size? Now, this is a very interesting question. As far as I'm aware, the data on this is contradictory in various ways. It's based on all kinds of different samples, all kinds of different organizations that will look at it. And you get these maps that are put out occasionally in newspapers like The Sun or whatever, which state that, though, this country has the biggest tits and this country has the smallest tits. But the problem is there are all kinds of variation in what is going to cause tit size, all kinds of things that are going to skew the average. And what you're really asking about, I think, what's really of interest is all else controlled for, kind of genetically, what country has the biggest tit size. Because, for example, if a country is full of fatties, if a country has lots of fat women, then obviously women put on the weight on their boobies. And so if they're overweight, if you've got a country that's very fat, like America, let's say, then they might not, for genetic reasons, have big boobs, but they'll end up with big boobs because they're fat. Well, that's not the same thing as growing large boobs as a natural ornament. Samoa for real, precisely. Samoa, that would be something. That would be an example. Samoa. The problem with Samoa is that there is, as someone's mentioned in the chat, a Jazari dream. Is Samoa and these kinds of countries that are these Pacific Islander countries have a massive weight problem. They have adopted a Western diet. They've basically been hunter-gatherers, so they're not adapted to Western food, and so they become very fat very quickly. Now, that doesn't mean that they, if you were to control for that, if you were controlled for calorific intake, would have the largest breasts. They may have very large breasts as a consequence of being massively overweight, but they're not necessarily going to have the largest breasts for genetic reasons. The function of breasts, apart from milking, operates as an ornament. It's a way of telling people, it's like a peacock's tail. I have such good genes that I can grow this ornament. I can fight off disease and whatever, and I still have enough bioenergetic resources left over to be able to grow this ornament. And so if you have poor immune system, then the ornament will be small, or it will be misshapen, or will be generally ugly. And so I'm answering the question, Division of Labour. I'm answering it as well as I can. And so what you would expect is that men would be attracted to these ornaments, and they would be attracted to within certain boundaries to large manifestations of these ornaments, because the fact that you could grow a large manifestation of the ornament or example of the ornament would mean that you had good genes. That would imply, of course, if you're interested in genes and of everything else, a fast life history strategy. Fast life history strategy, live fast, die young. You need to advertise your genetic quality as quickly and conspicuously as possible, because the men in that context go for genetic quality and physical quality over the mind and the brain. And so what you would expect is that it would be West Africans that would have, all else being controlled for, the largest breasts. And an even faster life history strategy than the West Africans is adopted by the Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert and by the Hottentot, by what used to be called the Hottentot, what we now call the Khoi, which is basically, and they do have enormous boobs. And if you look at these Southern African clines, so you have these groups in South Africa, like the Swazi. The king of Swaziland has multiple wives, and they don't wear any clothes. They all run around naked. And as someone has commented, chandeliers. I wasn't aware that was a metaphor for them, but okay. They do have enormous boobs and enormous buttocks, the buttocks being a secondary sexual characteristic. As you move up to East Africa, yes, it's a fast life history strategy, but it's less of a fast life history strategy. You're in the mountains. You've got to stalk prey over long periods of time and all this sort of thing. And so you have to be able to run long distances. This militates against large boobs. So they tend to have flatter chests in East Africa. So we're specifically talking about West Africa. If you've seen the film 12 Years a Slave, then you see that there's this whipping scene in which the girl from, I don't know what her name is, with the funny name, is stripped naked. And you see she's quite flat-chested. Well, that would be atypical for slaves, because they would tend to come from West Africa. It would be typical for Kenyans, and that's what she is. And also, as I say, so I would say the largest breasts are probably going to be among the South African women, among women that are a mixture of, what is that? A mixture of these Hottentot, Negroid, but also Bushman and Khoi traits. That's where you're going to get the world's biggest boobs. And you would expect to find the smallest boobs, and you do, among the most K strategy peoples. So that is to say, the Northeast Asians. They're going to be expected to have small boobs because you've got a limited amount of bioenergy resources. As you become more K selected, you invest more in the mind, you invest more and therefore less in the physical characteristics. And therefore the fact of having physical characteristics is not just less important, but it's literally selected against, because having large boobs is going to be associated with being sociosexual, as we know it is. And sociosexual women in an ecology like that, where men have to invest in the offspring, are literally going to be selected against and are going to be found less attractive. So the answer is South Africa, South Sub-Saharan Africa, largest boobs, Northeast Asia, smallest boobs. I don't know about the Aborigines. That is also a very fast life history ecology, the Australians. I can't comment on that, but I would imagine they would also have quite large breasts. Okay, I hope that answers that. Who has the largest labia, says John Nadder in the normal chat. Surely, if you've been watching this program, you will know who has the largest labia. Come on, somebody in the normal chat, tell this gentleman, John Nadder, who has the largest labia. The answer is the Bushmen of the Kalahari. The Bushmen have a labia which hangs down about 3 inches between their legs and adheres together like a banana skin. This is, of course, a secondary sexual characteristic. It's selected for in size because it shows that you have good Kalpi1, that's right, or Kalpi Uksi, and it shows that you have good genes and all that kind of thing. So they have the largest labia, and they do little dances where they wiggle them around for the pleasure of the males. Okay, good. The next question comes from Victor Valhens, 20 Australian dollars. Cheers. Thanks, mate. And he says, hi, Dr. Dutton. What's your take on people in powerful positions that have some degree of psychopathic traits? Is there a chance they might uphold what is morally right and serve the interests of the group? Love your work, Doc. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Valhens. Yes, there is. As a rule, you would expect these kinds of people that reach positions of tremendous power and are highly original and charismatic group leaders to be high in psychopathic traits, because they're prepared to rock the boat, they're prepared to be original, they're prepared, be people like Hitler or Mussolini. You would expect them to be quite narcissistic and also quite high in psychopathic traits. But it's quite possible that that is coupled with a genuine sort of moral foundations, if you like, that make them group selected. So those people can be quite psychopathic in the way they treat people and the way they behave, but they can also be, in terms of it's quite possible, it's unusual, it's an unusual combination, but it's possible for such people that are high in certain psychopathic traits to also be quite group selected and to be quite interested in their group as an extension of themselves, and for their moral foundations to be high in in-group loyalty, in a desire for authority and structure, and high in disgust. And those kinds of people, because they're high in psychopathic personality, can be predicted not to care about other people's feelings particularly. So they're going to be low in the moral foundations of harm avoidance and of equality. And it's exactly those kinds of people, those kinds of psychopaths that can combine those psychopathic traits with those moral foundations, who we can, for whatever reason, sort of an optimum combination of these different traits, basically, that you're going to expect to act in the interests of the group. So somebody like Hitler, it could be argued, would be a person who has a number of psychopathic traits, which means he doesn't care about hurting people and he doesn't care about equality. And he combines this with certain K dimensions, which make him high in a desire to obey authority and in a desire for structure and order and in-group loyalty. And so there you have the ultimate person that is is very, very frightening to the extreme left, because he's incredibly low. Thank you, Rohan Kale. He's incredibly low in a desire for equality and whatever. So yes, it is possible that people that have those traits would also be group selected and would have a desire to assist the interests of their group. It's perfectly possible. And I wouldn't be surprised if to a certain degree that's true of someone like Donald Trump. He has psychopathic kind of traits in a lot of ways. That's quite obvious in terms of the way he's lived his life. It's quite fast history strategist and whatever. But on the other hand, he combines this with these certain moral foundations, selective empathy, that says Trump 2020. That's perhaps one way of putting it. He combines this with these foundations which are group oriented. So you would have that sort of combination. So I think that is quite possible. Yes, that's thank you, Mr. Valhelms. Grandpappy Longshanks. $25, thank you, sir, says, is there a concerted effort among elites to obscure genealogical evidence of noble descent from commoners, or am I excessively suspicious or even paranoid? No, I don't think there is, sir. I think you'll find that it's very, very easy to trace your family tree online if you want to, at least if you're from certain countries. All of the information is out there. It's widely known, and I've seen it reported in the mainstream media. That all English people are descended from Edward III, and that all people in Europe are descended from Charlemagne, and all this kind of thing. So everybody has noble descent, and I'm not aware. Is there an effort among these to obscure? If you're asking me, are they trying to obscure their own noble descent? So if the question is that the elites, now that we have this new system of elitism, whereby you invert the normal system of what is regarded as good, and you try and promote the fact that you have struggled and you are poor and whatever. Are they trying to obscure that? Then I would say the answer is yes, because you have people in England, for example, that have the right to call themselves Lord so and so, and would have done in Victorian times, and now they don't. And so they are, in a sense, obscuring their own personal noble descent in order to fit in with the foreigners. So in that sense, or you have people that would have the right to call themselves the Honourable, because they are the son of a peer of the realm, the younger son of a peer of the realm, but they don't. And they play down the degree to which they are noble, in order to fit in with this idea, this new dogma of equality and everyone being equal and all this sort of thing. So if that's the answer, then I would say yes, there probably is a concerted attempt among the elites to play down the fact that they are part of long established noble and gentry families, and that they have from very rich and privileged backgrounds. In that sense, I would say yes. If you're asking me, are they trying to play down the commoners are descended in this way, then I would say the answer is no. I mean, you have these programs like Who Do You Think You Are, where they get quite working class celebrities, like that guy out of the Football Factory, I can't remember his name, and they show that person is descended from Thomas Cromwell and from various kings and whatever. So the Duke of the Seymours and all this sort of thing. But in terms of their own, then yeah, and that makes sense, of course, because we live in this increasingly egalitarian age where equality is the thing, and it kind of works against you, and they will try and use it against you if you are aristocratic, like Jacob Rees-Mogg or Boris Johnson or somebody like that. So yeah, in that sense, I think you're not being overly paranoid, sir. I think there probably is a move afoot to do something like that. Okay, the next question comes from Yehudi Finkelstein, $5. Thank you, sir. He says, is there any truth to the black Irish phenotype? In the Look Who's Talking To conception scene, John Travolta impregnates Kirstie Alley. My uncle Lou Duver said John Travolta is Keith Woods' dad. Could ancient Romans be responsible for the black Irish? I actually did a video on this. My understanding is that no, that to the extent that you have these people among the Irish who are dark, this seems to be a consequence of the Spanish Armada, which ran aground off Ireland, and the people then went there and integrated into the local population. There is another theory that it's just a kind of remnant pre-Celtic population, sort of Neolithic farmer, even earlier than that, hunter-gatherers or whatever, that have retained dark hair as something like that, or isolated for a relatively long time. It could be, I suppose, possible that the Romans took slaves there and they integrated into the population, but in general, no. My understanding is that the black Irish is an issue of of a much later genetic importation. So, and although interestingly, you did get some Irish that ended up being taken as slaves to the West Indies, indentured servants, effectively slaves in the West Indies. And you have some people in the West Indies to this day that speak in a kind of Irishy sort of accent and are very poor and have maintained elements of Irish culture. But I did a video where I looked at the genetics of the Irish a while ago. I think it's still up. Yeah, I think it's generally understood that this is an issue that relates to the Spanish Armada and the small population that Ireland was at the time, that then integrated into the population with dominant traits. Okay, Yehudi Finkelstein, $3 says, Ed, is it true that your smoking jackets are really just the old window drapes that your wife was going to throw out? No, sir. No, I have two smoking jackets. I have this one, and then I have one over there, the other one, this sort of yellow, golden red one, which used to belong to my grandfather. A picture of whom you see in the thumbnail that I did for this show, my grandfather holding me. So I have two of these smoking jackets. I'd like to get one of the sort of the thicker ones. That I don't know if you've seen that film. That film that's a recent film about relatively recent, or 10 years ago, I suppose it was, about a silent movie. It was a silent movie about the collapse of the silent movie industry. And you see the guy in there, the main character in there, wearing smoking jackets all the time when he's at the dinner table and things like that. So I wouldn't mind getting one of those, but they seem to be very, very difficult to get hold of and extremely expensive. So at the moment, I only have two smoking jackets, these thin smoking jackets. One of them is this one, and the other one is the golden red one, which you see me wear. Sometimes I prefer this one, but the golden red one. Which so yeah. I'd like to get another one. All right, Yehudi Finkelstein, $3 says, was Charles II the ultimate representation of fast life history strategy? I can't remember whether I answered this. I don't think so. So, I mean, in terms of his sexual appetites, then obviously, yes, this is a man that had numerous mistresses. He was totally uncommitted to his wife. He had offspring by numerous mistresses. So he would seem to be a person. I wouldn't say the ultimate representation of fast life history strategy, because I mean, a person that just lives for the now like that wouldn't have sort of survived in the way that he did. I mean, he was quite a canny political operator. He was quite planful. He dealt with his opponents. He fled to Scotland and whatever, and then he fled to other places and stayed there until it was safe to come back from the interregnum. In that sense, he wasn't particularly. He wasn't. There could have been people, perhaps even descendants of his or descendants of his son King James II, who were like Bonnie Prince Charlie or whatever, who were more impulsive than him and made mistakes, and therefore didn't gain the throne in a way that they otherwise might have done, as is the case with the young pretender, with Bonnie Prince Charlie, in 1745 or whenever it was, when he got as far as Derby. I mean, he invaded England. He was crowned king, and he just made these stupid, impulsive mistakes. Whereas Charles II, I'm not aware, has made mistakes of that kind. I think he did rather better. So I wouldn't say that Charles II is the ultimate example of a fast life history strategist, although I would concur that he is something of a fast life history strategist, as is evidenced by his sexual appetites and the many mistresses whom he sampled in his lifetime. Okay, Yehudi Finkelstein, $5, says the thesis of At Our Wits' End is we are getting dumber. I agree, as evidenced by TV music shows. 50 to 60 years ago in America, we had Lawrence Welk playing pop and German folk songs. Today in the USA and the UK, you get fucktarded shit like The Voice and BGT. Yes, there is. I was aware of a study on this. There is evidence consistent with that, analyses of these pop songs. And there is evidence that pop songs, thank you, Alexander Solbalken-Deval, pop songs are getting shorter. Pop songs are getting more simple. The subjects are getting more simplistic. And so in general, the nature of the pop song is reflecting a stupider more impulsive population that has has a shorter time preference and is less able to listen to things. And in particular, the songs are shorter, and that's one key thing. The songs are shorter. And music is not my area, as you know. I'm not particularly interested in music, but from what I know, of what I've read of people that are interested in this, they're getting shorter, and they're in other ways as well. They are evidencing a declining intelligence. So that is certainly the case, and well, certainly the case, but that appears to be the case. Yes. So our pop songs, I mean, that's to be expected. Our pop songs are evidencing the fact that we are becoming less intelligent. I mean, there was a video I did a while ago on the kind of music that is liked by intelligent people, which is not instrumental music, and the kind of and classical music, and the kind of music that is liked by stupid people, which was like rap and whatever, bang 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 music. And so it would be interesting to sort of assess pop music and see how, if you have an archetypal classical and non-classical, it has moved in the direction of non-classical. That would be very, very interesting. Thank you, Jimmy Goodman. That would be very, very interesting. But otherwise, no, as I understand it, yeah, the nature of the pop songs, that would be quite qualitative, indicates that we are getting thicker. Right, Welsh Groiper 98, £3. Thank you indeed much, sir. Says, what do you say to the idea that it's capitalism stroke neoliberalism that is deconstructing nations' ethos? It's firms that are the primary force pushing for mass migration, usury, diversity, etc. Well, I'm not sure about that, but well, yes, that is true. But those firms want to make money, and they want to make money in the context of a culture which is pushing for these things, and so therefore, I mean, in the promoting of, you know, like Yorkshire Tea promoting Black Lives Matter, you can see how they're promoting these things under pressure from the culture rather than the other way around. Although I would agree with you. So I would say that those kinds of firms are just influenced by what is in vogue and what they think will help them to make money. And they think that if the majority of the population adhere or think they adhere to or like to please themselves by thinking they adhere to this religion of Black Lives Matter or whatever, then they better promote that to help make money. As for the idea that they promote, I would agree that they promote immigration. I think that is true. Because you have to have a central ethos that says, you know, no, this is our nation, and you get your workers from within the nation. And once you lose that, and you can get workers from anywhere, then of course you are undermining the nation, you are undermining the cohesiveness of the nation, you are undermining the ethnocentrism of the nation and internal trust. You are you are basically killing the working class and destroying them, and the lower middle class. Dank u wel, dis Jari Dream. Nick, waarom spreekt Nederlands here? This is in Engels taal channel. So yes, so I do think you're right that it's the collapse of a sense of ethnocentrism and religiosity and whatever that is then reflected in the fact that these firms are prepared to look abroad for their labor and thus bring in immigrants. It's that ideology which they have taken in and which they feel is acceptable, which allows them to do that. And it's a culture which allows them to feel that that's acceptable, which allows them to do that. So I think it's a chicken and egg situation. I think it's the cultural change led by the spiteful mutants that's come first. And this has made capitalism, which was formerly operating really in the interests of our own people and our own expansion and our own Britain's expansion into the world and the empire and all, and the East India Company and all this sort of thing. And it's gone from operating in that way to operating in a way which is maladaptive, which is against the interests of the British people, and particularly against the interests of the British worker. I mean, the contempt with which this system holds the British worker, whereby, you know, you have to compete with people who send money home, who spend most of their time in a foreign country. It's absolutely appalling. So yes, I would concur on that, Welsh Groiper. Doug Nimitz did that one. Doug Nimitz says Irish cream whiskey and ice with salt, very nice. Well, thank you very much, sir. Okay, the next question comes from okay, here we go. From Doug Nimitz, and he says, Dr. Dutton, have you heard of Build Black Better, the Fourth Industrial Movement, or even the Global Reset? No, I haven't, sir. No, I haven't. Thank you for bringing that up. I knew there was something I was going to check before the show, and it was that. So what is this thing, Build Black Better? I'm not familiar with this at all. Thank you for drawing my attention to it. Build Black Better, Joe Biden's jobs and economy recovery. Build Black Better, so something to do with Joe Biden. So it's something to do with helping black people by Joe Biden. Okay, well, thank you for drawing my attention to it. All I can hope, and I would imagine that most people watching the Jolly Heretic agree, is that Joe Biden is thoroughly dispatched next Tuesday, dispatched into the outer darkness, and we never have to hear from him ever again. What am I drinking tonight, Professor? I am drinking my usual Spitfire. My local Lidl has selfishly refused to get hold of the Kentish Ale, which I like. So I'm back on the Spitfire. All right, thank you, sir. The next question is from 2066 Alarm. Are we in the right? Are we in the right in a KR strategy paradox? It is now high risk to be right of Stalin, so only short life history strategists will be right wing. I don't describe it well. I hope you understand what I mean. No, I'm not sure I entirely agree with that, sir. I mean, let's think about what the fast life history strategist is like. So the fast life history strategist is adapted to live fast, die young, and invest all of his energy in sex, basically. Now, on the one hand, one manifestation of fast life history strategy is going to be a person that is psychopathic. People that are psychopathic, they like conflict, they like fighting, they like being different, they like offending people, and people like that are going to be attracted to serious political dissidents. And at the moment, that is being far right. And therefore, people that are psychopathic are going to be attracted to the far right. And I suspect that's one of the reasons why the far right is often stereotyped as having a great deal of infighting in the last 50 years, because it attracts people like that, who literally are attracted to chaos. Another manifestation of a fast life history strategy is narcissism and Machiavellianism. These kinds of people are going to be attracted. I mean, there's a study on this actually by someone called Moss and O'Connor, are going to be attracted to the far left. So because if you go to the far left, you get praise, you get people loving you and telling you you're great, and it's a way in the current dispensation of gaining power. So I don't think being an R strategist is inherently attractive to being right wing or being left wing. I think it's more subtle than that. Although I would say that overall, I would say that right wing people are more K strategy than left wing people, because conservatism and a lot of conservative values involve investing in your offspring, involve traditional ways of doing things. All of those traditional ways of doing things, they tend to be K strategists. And religiousness is a very good proxy for K strategy. And people who are religious tend to be relatively high in K strategy, whereas people who are on the left in favor of equality and harm avoidance, those are individualizing values. And our strategists are individualizing people. They tend to be atheists. They tend to be selfish. They tend to care ultimately about themselves. They're not going to be the ones laying down their lives for other people in battle. That's a K strategy thing to do. They're not going to be the ones operating for the good of their group. They operate for the good of themselves. They might dress this up. That's their brilliance. That's their genius. They might dress this up as being selfless and operating for the good of their group, but they're not really operating for the good of their group. They're operating for the good of themselves. I think it's fascinating what Academic Agent was saying here the other day, that a lot of these people that vote Democrat are more inclined to vote by post because they're afraid of catching corona. Well, what does that tell you? They're afraid of catching corona. They're high in neuroticism. They're high in mental instability. Mental instability is a marker, unless it's social anxiety, is a marker of a fast life history strategist. They're voting for a party that's in favor of equality and harm avoidance. Those are individualistic values, fast life history strategy. So I think overall, people who are right-wing are more K-selected than people that are left-wing. But it gets a bit complicated when we talk about the far right, because if you're on the far right, then you are a kind of a dissident. And there is a degree to which that is going to attract psychopathic people that are basically attracted to chaos and fighting. So I think it's a little bit more subtle than you say, sir. And I'm not sure I would say that we're in as much trouble as you make out. Not least because it's those on the far right, as I'm looking at in the book that I'm writing at the moment, who have the most babies. Okay, Danger Book Reviews. I think we did that question. John B says, if you had to assign, did that one. Doug Nimitz did that one. Chode Mongrel did that one. King Sobieski, since economic liberalism cannot be separated from cultural liberalism, did that one. Doug Nimitz, Dr. Dutton, what was the book that you mentioned that referred to USA people longing for certain English areas within the US? I must say, I don't recall mentioning that specific book. There was a book by Kaufman. Let me just Google it for you. There was a book by Eric Kaufman that you might be referring to, which I see that there's two things that you might be referring to. One is that there's the research which indicates that you have certain areas of America that were settled by the more sort of Anglo-Saxon type people, and certain areas of America that were settled by the more Celtic type people, and then also you have this idea that America was once perceived itself as a sort of as a sort of British colony, and as more British and more English than England. And I did a video on that a while ago, that which was commissioned by our squire, the rise and fall of Anglo-America. And the rise and fall of Anglo-America looks at that. It looks at immigration into different parts of America and how immigration into different parts of America was different and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, the rise and fall of Anglo-America is, I think, the book that you're referring to there, sir. So I just hope it is. I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, so that's that book, The Rise and Fall of Anglo-America. It's a very interesting book, and it's very much worth reading. Okay, the next question comes from Passer on the Street. Thank you very much indeed, sir. And he says, happy birthday, Ed. I am back, though I am always here, though oft by other names. I wanted to ask, why are Princess Eugenie's eyes so big? Is this to do with upper class being more K-selected and being more neotenous? It's a very interesting point. I think, yeah, she does. That's a good point. She does have noticeably big eyes as Princess Eugenie, but neither of her parents have particularly big eyes. So I suspect it's just a sort of genetic quirk. It's just sort of luck of the draw that there's been a combination of genes between her parents that has led to her, who are, as far as I know, are not particularly closely related, that has led to her having very big eyes. I don't think it's likely. Well, it could be associated with the upper class to some extent, because neoteny could be a sign of K strategy, and you would expect the upper class to be more K strategist. But I don't think I suspect that it's no more than a coincidence, because the sister, the Beatrix, she doesn't have particularly large eyes, so I think it's just a coincidence. It's attractive, obviously. It's the sign of neoteny. It's the sign of youth. Small eyes become smaller with age, which is why we are attracted to large eyes. And so I suspect it's just a sign of low mutational load. And of course, you have to take a drink every time I say that. So I think that's probably what's going on there. Okay, the next question comes from our squire, Jonathan Oliver Allen, Rainer Hills Esquire. Hello, sir. £10. Thank you very much indeed, sir. And he says, the big four. Oh, the big 4-0. Becker's thesis, that's the thing that I did a video on recently, must have got under your skin. Yes, I did find it quite annoying, sir. Yes, our squire commissioned the video that I recently did, the Halloween special, on Becker's book on the denial of death, and I wasn't a particularly great fan of that book, I have to say. But no matter, old boy, youth and good looks are temporary, yes, but the glory of the revealed boomer tech is eternal. Thank you very much, sir. That's most kind of you. O word of God incarnate, O wisdom from on high, O truth unchanged, unchanging, O light of our sky, we praise you. Thank you very much, sir. That's most kind of you. I'm most happy to accept your humble praise, humbly offered in the spirit of humility. Thank you, Angus Patra. Okay, right. Okay, we praise you for the radiance that from the hallowed page a lantern to our footsteps shines on from age to age. Oh, Mr. Rainer Hills, you are too kind, and thank you very much indeed, sir. And we will, of course, be in touch soon about the various projects that we are working on together. And a belated happy 25th birthday to you incredibly young, dashing fellow. Okay, Yehudi Finkelstein, hello, sir, $3. And he says, how were birthday parties as an only child? Well, they involved a lot of presents, I have to say. As I've said before, there was one birthday when I got both Snake Mountain and Castle Grayskull. So, of course, that tells you my age. It was 1985. So, yeah, that's it was a good thing being an only child. Not just an only child, of course, but an only grandchild. I will be 25 next week, says Rohan Kale. Oh, my goodness me, 25. That's like 2005. So I'm 15 years older than you. So that's like you see me as I see someone that was born in 1965. 1965 was the days of black and white television. I mean, 1965 was, I mean, that's seriously old. I mean, oh my goodness, what you must think. What you must think. And the weird thing is that when you reach 39 or 40, as I will be tomorrow, sir, you really don't feel any different from 25. Not really. No, it's more jaded with the world. Okay, the next question comes from, please tweet, to those that are new to the Jolly Heretic, I should announce. So we are an online public house and we meet on Mondays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. UK time, which is 3 p.m. in New York. It will soon be 2 p.m. in New York. We discuss topics such as the latest politically incorrect science, based science, the kind of science they won't discuss in the mainstream media, that sort of thing. And we drink beer because, as I've said, we are an online public house, the Jolly Heretic. It's a play on the famous pub in England, the Jolly Farmer. We have viewers from all over the world, and we welcome you severely. If you are new to the channel, then please do subscribe. Subscribe. It really, really helps if you subscribe. If you hit that like button on this particular video, YouTube are crushing the channel and refusing to let anybody see it. I may be the oldest, says John Narder, born 1970. God, you're 2 years older than my cousin Dick Dutton. So please cheers. So please subscribe. I put up a video, a non-live stream video, that is, either once a week or once a fortnight. Please hit that like button, hit that bell button, spread the word on the old Twitter and the old Facebook and whatever. You can follow my tweets on Twitter at Jolly Heretic. And if you want to, you can be very kind and you can help support the channel, which they won't adverts come on, by sending a super chat either at the link below or at thank you Fabian Brown or at the link thank you Cheeky Pop or didn't I answer that question or the link the old YouTube. So anyway, moving on to the next question. I think I answered the question on the Guardian, whoever it is just sent that in. Okay, Uni Finkelstein, what were parties like? Dutty the thumbnail. What were they like? So I would, well, it depends which party we're talking about. When I was 9, that was my first all-boys party, and a load of us went to the Yellow Heaven Soup Kitchen in Kingston upon Thames, which is a very interesting pub, which had a mannequin of a nun on a motorbike on its awning, and then like upside down table, just the tables on the ceiling and weird stuff like that. So that was a jolly good place at the Yellow Heaven Soup Kitchen. Before that, it would be at my house, and my parents, who were both art teachers, would sort out all kinds of arty things for my invitees to do. Such as one year when I was 11, we went brass rubbing at Guildford Cathedral. That was my mother's idea, rather peculiar. And then other years, just having lots of friends over and playing party games of various kinds, really. One year, I think it was 1986, my parents hired Loopy's Laughter Show. Loopy was this entertainer, and he entertained us with his various magic things and that sort of thing. So those are my birthday parties. He says, the thumbnail with Eddie wearing the Eddie Number of the Beast shirt. I don't think it's Number of the Beast. I think you'll find it's Aces High. Is priceless. Yes, the problem with that, though, is it doesn't wash well. So that was a shirt that would have been made in the late 80s, I suppose, and all of the stuff. I think that photograph was taken in Cornwall in about 1988. Anyway, it is the Aces High. Cheers. You have to get it printed. So I remember going into the shop, and then it would show you all the Iron Maiden possibilities, and I wanted that one. Cheers. I trust you have no wasted years. Wasted years is a reference to the Lost Somewhere in Time album by Iron Maiden from 1986. 86 or something like that. Thank you very much. Okay, and then Carlotta, our great moderator, and she says, happy 40th birthday, Dr. Ed. Have a jolly good and low mutational load. next decade? Well, I will try, but as you know, the likelihood is that I will age severely over the next decade. And though there won't be any, well, although there won't necessarily be any increase in mutational load, what is likely to occur is that my cells will replicate themselves less well, resulting in aging. When did you answer the Guardian question, Cheeky Pop? I answered it either in the last episode or the episode before that. Not only that, but I got, which is uploaded to BitChute. Not only that, but I got the copy of the Guardian out, and I explained in detail about the nature of the article, and you'll find that episode on BitChute. I answered the Guardian question. I can answer it again very quickly if you want, which is that I used to be a freelance journalist, and so I pitched articles to everywhere, and one of those was the Guardian. But you will find the long answer on BitChute. I can't remember whether, I think it was the episode. I think it would have been last Thursday's episode. That's when I answered the Guardian question. So you will find that there, madam. Okay. But thank you for your super chat anyway. Okay. The next question comes from SA 27.99 Canadian dollars. I'm going back now to last Thursday, and he says Canada has a drama teacher for prime minister, an interior designer as health minister, and a journalist as finance minister. The last two are females. Imagine the consequence when you get ruled by the weak. Well, you're talking to a person who is living in a country where until quite recently all of the dominant ministers in the government were women. And now the prime minister is a 35-year-old woman. The education secretary is a woman in her early 30s who is a communist and has a tattoo. The interior secretary is a not very attractive woman in her mid-30s, and the some other, whichever post it is a middle-aged woman. And until recently, the finance minister was also a woman in her sort of early 30s. So you know, I think you should be sympathizing with me rather than the other way around. Finland has created for itself a gynocracy by basically this feminism and equality, and thus voting for people not because of the content of their character, but because of the content of their pants. And that is what has happened, and the content of their bras. Well, not really that, because they're all quite flat, with the exception of the finance minister, but she was the one that resigned. So you know, of the content of their pants, and so of course you get these women that are over promoted. They're no good, and one of them, in the case of Katri Kulmuni, who was the finance minister, was corrupt or made a mistake or whatever, and consequently she had to resign. And so, you know, that's no good, is it? So, yeah, is this particular episode being suppressed by YouTube? I'd be interested to know. I don't know if anyone's actually found this yet. But yeah, so I sympathise. The other thing I would say, sir, about Canada is it's not quite as simple as that, because the you must understand that the Prime Minister of Canada is himself the son of one of a Prime Minister. Pretty has fine milkers, someone has commented. I'm not sure, I don't know, I haven't observed that. All that I noticed about Pretty is that she is quite fantastically short. I mean, she really is very, very short. I mean, she must be about 5 foot tall. She's tiny. So I'm not sure about the milker situation. If she has fine milkers, sir, then this is likely. Usually there are 1K viewers. No, there aren't usually 1K viewers, sir. There's normally about 800. But so I don't know whether it's because people have got used to be interviewing someone and they prefer that. I don't know. Normally the South Asians do not have particularly big milkers, so if she has large milkers, then that is you know, quite atypical for a South Asian lady. Okay, the next question comes from. Sorry, I was going to say, sorry, yeah, the Prime Minister of Canada is himself the son of a Canadian Prime Minister. That's the point. So it's not quite as simple as, oh, he's a drama teacher. He's a drama teacher who was the son of the Canadian Prime Minister. So one would expect him to inherit that drive, that testosterone, that desire to dress up as a non-white person. And it seems that he has done that. And as for journalism and finance, well, as for journalism again is that's quite a cut and thrust profession. So I'm not interior designer. Yeah, that's more kind of arty. But so I'm not quite sure that you should be as shocked as you as you proclaim to be, sir. Okay, the next question comes from Chris Cleveridge, $4.99. Thank you very much, sir. He says, will the US go through a similar phase to Germany, extremely liberal in the 20s, extremely conservative in the 30s? I don't know. As I say, I'm working on a book at the moment in which, with a colleague, in which we try to work out when this might happen. My suspicion is there is going to be a change. There is going to be a change. The birth rates alone predict that there's going to be a change, but also the general system whereby periods of being very, very left-wing and very, very pro-equality tend to lead to chaos. And the result of that chaos is that there is a flip back towards a more conservative right-wing system. Of course, we have never, I think, in human history, apart from in various, I don't know, cults or, breakaway groups from society, but never has a society as a whole been as liberal and equalitarian as this. And I think it's the spiteful mutants who deviate from the normal model of religiousness and conservatism that have pushed it in this direction. My suspicion, based on what I've seen so far, is that, yes, the 20s is going to be a pivotal decade. What tends to happen is that the society becomes extraordinarily polarized. If you look through Peter Turchin's work, and then breaks down and then flips in the opposite direction and becomes more right wing. And it is when those who are in the positions of power realize that they're losing control, realize that the way they want the world to be, that their moral foundations are going to go, that they tend to clamp down. And so therefore there is, as it were, if we see it as, from our perspective as people that are relatively conservative, most of us, there is a storm before the calm. Can I put it like that? And so if you look in both America and Britain, then there was much stronger persecution of left-wing people in the 50s than there was in the 40s or 30s. There was much stronger persecution of homosexuals in the 50s than there was in the 40s or 30s. There was much less tolerance, basically, of leftists and equalitarian and anti-religion and whatever ideas in the 50s than there was in the 40s or 30s. Society became very, very conservative and was pushed into being very, very conservative in the 50s, much more so than it had previously been. And then that was then when it turned. That was when it turned, and people started to think that, for example, with Princess Margaret, and that she wasn't allowed to marry the man that she loved, or whatever. That was in the 50s. And that was when it turned, and people started to feel that the society was too conservative, was too authoritarian, was too based on in-group loyalty, was too high in disgust, whatever, and wasn't high enough in equality and these other values, which we all have. We all have equality and harm avoidance. It wasn't high. In the 50s, you have pressure on women to, if they get pregnant outside of marriage, to give up their child. Well, that wasn't happening so much in the 20s. You just had bastard children. But in the 50s, it had become more conservative, and so it was more unacceptable. Sexual morality was more... I mean, in Victorian England, the only thing that was a crime was sodomy. You literally had to prove that someone had put their gentleman's sausage into another gentleman's back passage in order for it to be a crime, and that was considered, and that was changed to indecency, which meant that, like, holding hands for men was illegal and whatever. So there was this clampdown. McCarthy in America, in Britain, it was the Home Secretary, Sir David Maxwell Fyfe, that was in charge of the buggery, says Rowan Hale, precisely. That was in charge of the clampdown. And so my suspicion is that it can't get much more woke than this before there's just collapse. And so my suspicion is that, yes, by the time if I'm here in 10 years' time celebrating my 50th birthday, then things might be rather different. Okay, the next question comes from highiq.com, $5. Thank you, sir. He says, have you read The Protocols of Zion? Would you recommend it? And if so, on what basis? I have read that book, and I would recommend it on the grounds that it is a salient historical text. Whether something is true or not, whether something is accurate or not, whether something is a forgery or not, if it has had an influence on on history, then I would think that it's worth reading. I mean, I've read the Quran, or at least I've read quite a lot of it, and the other Muslim texts on the grounds that they're important. So I've read most of the Bible. I've even had a go at reading the book from the Scientologists on the grounds these are salient texts in history, and it strikes me they are worth reading. In general, as you know, I don't read novels and I don't read fiction, but if the fiction has had some historical significance, then I'd be interested to read it. I'm thinking of reading Bram Stoker's Dracula, simply because it's a highly historically significant novel, and so therefore I'd like to know about it, and I'd like to know what all the fuss is about, as it were. Okay, the next question comes from Sheev Palpacringe, £5. Thank you, sir. My question is, what will happen if the government give every man in the country a pill to increase testosterone level? Interesting point. There is evidence that testosterone levels are dramatically falling in Western countries, very dramatically falling. Part of this could be to do with rising levels of mutation, causing men to have less testosterone. Part of this could be to do with the sort of suppression of masculinity and males constantly being told they're rubbish, and this idea of toxic masculinity or whatever, and that could make men feel rubbish. And if men feel rubbish, they produce more cortisol and less testosterone. Part of this could be to do with people being fat and obese and therefore producing less testosterone. Part of it, people argue, I don't know if they're right, but could be to do with chemicals and environmental issues and things like that. If people were higher in testosterone levels, then what you would expect would be a society that would basically be more R-strategist and therefore more violent, less cooperative, more sort of racist, basically, more repelling of people that were different, more, England would be more like sort of South America. That would be what would happen if there were higher levels of testosterone. Society would be more R-strategist, more aggressive. That's what would come about. And so it may be the case, it seems to be the case that it was the case 50 years ago, that people were higher in testosterone levels. You would get fewer incels, you would all of these things which could, or fewer herbivore men, all of these things which could potentially be functions of low levels of testosterone would go. So that's what would happen. So you would have, on the one hand, a more violent society and a more aggressive society, but on the other hand, a more sort of ethnocentric, sort of traditional society, if it is indeed the case that our current levels of testosterone are going down. Okay, Gluten, $5. Thank you, sir. Says, I have very high spatial intelligence and working memory, and likely on the spectrum. If you're watching this show, sir, then that alone is evidence that you may well likely be on the spectrum. Okay. Can intelligence be leveraged to overcome a lack of social intuition? Yes, it can. There is good evidence for that. So people who are, there is a correlation of 0.3 between IQ and solving and basically social skill, empathy. So that means that IQ alone, controlling for personality, predicts the ability to solve social problems, to get on with people, to empathize, to put yourself in their position, to work out what they might think. So what you would predict from that is that because people become better at solving social, they become more intelligent, not higher IQ, but they become more intelligent with age, then they will become better at solving social problems with age. So the effect of autism will decrease on the ability, being crap in social situations and offending people and all this kind of thing, will decrease with age, because people will become more intelligent with age, and therefore they will become better at solving social problems with age, and therefore, they will become less autistic. Okay, we're about halfway through, so I'd like to say hello. It's my birthday tomorrow. I'm going to be 40. Bloody hell. Because I'm going to be 40, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to have a second drink to celebrate. So the first one was an amber ale, and this one, my lovely boys, is a golden ale. And I hope all of you as well are going to have a second drink. So cheers. I'm having a birthday party on Saturday. Finn Bear, who sometimes watches on here and comments, is coming to that birthday party. So what I'd like to do is, after I answer a few questions, obviously I appreciate you all coming here. I appreciate you all coming here twice a week, or a lot of you coming here twice a week to the Jolly Heretic. I appreciate you all sending in your old super chats, and I appreciate you all supporting this channel and encouraging me and whatever. And I would like, I don't know many of you. The only person that I've got to know personally is our squire, and I wouldn't be at all averse to getting to know some of you a bit better. So if I put the link in the chat, if anyone would like to come on and say hello, because it's a special birthday edition, there it is, then I would be more than happy to have them on. And if they would like to ask me a question in person, then I would, because it's a special edition, it's the birthday edition. So I've put the link to allowing you to join this stream in the chat. And so I'm going to answer the next question, and then I'm going to turn back and see if anyone's up for that idea. Okay. So the answer is intelligence can be leveraged to overcome a lack of social intuition. So that's true. And people that are high in autism traits do tend to become better with age, because they learn, in part through increasing intelligence and in part just through social learning, how to deal with it. Right. Edward Z, or Z, $10 says, would be curious to hear your thoughts on Vox Day's socio-sexual hierarchy. Some parts are BS, but the idea that alpha beta distinction is too restrictive or heuristic is legit. Yes, I have looked at this, sir, and I agree. I mean, obviously, any binary division. So if you were to make a binary division between R strategist and K strategist, then it's simplistic. It allows correct predictions to be made, but it's simplistic. And if you want more fine-tuned, more fine-grained predictions to be made, then it's of course legitimate to make a 4-fold model or a 6-fold model, or however many fold model allows correct predictions to be made before the different the different categories merge into each other to such an extent that it's pretty useless. I mean, in personality research, for example, we tend to divide between 5 key personality traits. And this is good. We do this because they are pretty distinct from each other, and they allow correct predictions to be made. But similarly, you can reduce this down to one overall factor, which is general factor of personality, which is binary. Either you are socially effective or you are not. And this also allows correct predictions to be made, but it's less fine-grained. So I concur that he may be right, that we of course can describe these highly charismatic men or whatever who are the alphas, and then go through the rest. So I would not be skeptical of that. One thing that I would oh my goodness, one thing that I would be concerned about, though, is that the order of the Greek alphabet is alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and he gets that wrong. Right. Hello, Mr. Wood. You are a person who has very kindly sent in a number of super chats. So how do you do?
I'm good. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
You can or cannot?
Hear you. Oh, I know why I can't hear you. It's my fault. It's my fault. I know why. I haven't plugged the speakers in. That's why I can't hear you. Hello, I can hear you now. I know why I can't hear you. It's my fault. Turn it off. Turn the sound off on the thing. I haven't plugged the speakers in. Okay. Hello.
Sorry.
Hello, sir. Hello, I can hear you now. I know why I can't hear you. It's my fault. I must say this is getting a bit trad-thod boomer tech with Mr. Woods here, but
Okay, hello. Hello, sir. Okay, it should work now. I put in my headphones.
It's hello. Hello. Are you in a car? I must say this is getting a bit trad-thod. You have to turn the sound off at your end. On the channel.
Okay, it should work now. I put in my headphones.
Oh, I see. Well, hello. Lot of you have to turn the sound off on the YouTube.
Oh, okay. I see what I'm doing wrong.
Lot of you have to turn the sound off on the YouTube. This is very trad-thod boomer tech.
Oh, okay. I see what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'll hello, sir. This is going to last forever. Look, I'm going to move on to somebody else. Right? Make sure, people, that if you come on here, you've got the YouTube turned off. Right? This is going to last forever. Look, I'm going to.
Hey!
Hello.
Happy birthday.
Who am I talking to here? Huskies.
Huskies, yes, Huskies. This is awesome.
Hello. How do you do? How do you do? So where are you from?
I'm from the Netherlands. I lived in England for 9 years, but I was born in the Netherlands and I moved back.
Where are you from? Okay.
I'm from the Netherlands. I lived in England for 9 years. What sound do I have to turn off?
You have to turn off the YouTube. Turn off the sound on the YouTube.
How does that work?
Just get rid of YouTube so you're not watching this anymore. Remove it. Turn off the sound on the YouTube. Otherwise, you get a feedback effect.
How does that work?
Oh my God! I thought this was going to be. I thought this was going to be so simple as well, and it's. Move it. Right. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call a feedback effect, and you may recall from quite a while ago that it caused tremendous problems for this channel. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is there we go. Right. Okay, that didn't really work. So I'm going to move on to. I hope you could all hear me. I'm going to move on to that. That really didn't work in a fairly major way. Don't try and do new things ever. Doing new things causes problems, obviously. I'm going to try that again in a minute. I've got Seamus, Midwits Commune, Mo, and various other people there, and I will move on to you. But if I do move on to you, I will after the next question. But I want to calm down after that because that was quite violent. But I really, please. You mustn't have the YouTube thing on, because if you have the YouTube thing on, it creates a feedback effect, as you just saw, which was insane. So we don't want that to happen again. Otherwise, we will all die. Okay, I'm going to do the next question, which is from James Barnett. And he says, good evening, Professor. Your take on the suicide of Dr. Joshua Burke, medic and musician, is the high IQ mind Icarus? My take, sir, on this is that Dr. Burke was a musical prodigy, and he then went into medicine and trained to be a doctor. So he fundamentally changed his life. Fundamentally changing your life, and in particular, people tend to identify either as scientists or as art type people. And so to make a very, very fundamental change in your life and in your identity like that tends to be a function of mental illness, of mental problems. And so you get to a point and you question the nature of yourself, because if you're high in neuroticism, then you're constantly questioning everything and thinking about everything and worrying about everything, including yourself. And it gets to a point where you don't know what's going on, and therefore you become depressed, and therefore you try to adopt a new identity as a way of dealing with it. I think that's what happened with him, and I think that's why he may have killed himself. Right. Therefore he may have killed himself. Now, I think that's what happened with him, and I think that's why. Okay, what seems to be happening is some sort of feedback problem with my own speakers, so perhaps it's my fault. I'm now going to turn on the speakers. Okay, so does that mean I have to turn off? I don't think I can, chaps. I don't think I can do this thing where we speak to you, because there's some kind of problem with my own speakers, actually, perhaps rather than you, which is causing this. Normally, when I'm on here and I have people in, I can do this and it works fine. But if I turn this on, it immediately causes a feedback effect on my own speakers, and so that's no good. So I'm going to have to abandon ship on that. I think possibly I'll try one more time. I don't understand why it's not working, because it should be that I can plug these speakers into this microphone, and then invite someone onto the channel. Maybe I have to invite them in first and then turn the speaker on. But I tried that earlier. I'm going to try one more time, and then I'm going to stop it. Okay, one more time. Right. I have someone here.
Hello there.
He presumably has his YouTube thing turned off or something.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn on the speaker and let's see if this works. Right. No, it doesn't work. It's not working. So I don't know why that's the case. It's just causes a feedback effect, and I'm sorry about that. So that means that I can't hear him. So it's all buggered. So I can't do this. So I'm terribly sorry. I don't know why, because when I've done it with Michael, he just sits there, and I have these speakers turned on. And there's no feedback effect at all.
Michael was special, obviously.
And then see what happens. Sits there. And I have these speakers turned on.
Can you hear me?
There's no feedback effect at all.
Michael was special, obviously.
Can you hear me?
No, it's a continuous problem. So no, it's not going to work. So I'm just going to remove this gentleman from bye. So I'm sorry about that. I cannot comprehend what the problem is, because it should be that I plug these in and it works, but it doesn't. Right, bugger that. Okay, the next question comes from Clifford Bates, and he says, "Hi Ed, thank you very much, sir." The next question from T.R. Kunick, and he says, "Does alcohol affect your productivity?" €5. I might try this later, by the way, with the having you on, but I don't know. I can't understand what the problem is. There shouldn't be a problem. Does alcohol affect your productivity? Yes, it does. It does tend to rather reduce my productivity. I think if I get particularly hammered, then productivity tends to rather go down. Most peculiar. Do we have any computer types on here who have any idea why that didn't work? It should be surely that I plug the speakers. I mean, it's Tradthop Boomer Tech stuff here. I appreciate that, but I plug the speakers in, and there shouldn't be a feedback. There's no reason why there should be a feedback loop. It should just be that it works. And when I've been on other people's channels, I go into their channel and you know, or whatever, and I have them on, and there's absolutely no problem at all. So I don't know why it creates this feedback loop, except if it created it once when someone had the YouTube thing on, it just goes on forever. Headphones, well, all right, I'll give that a go, but I don't like those, because then I hear things back. I don't know if I can do that. I'll give that a go. All right, so headphones. Okay, I'm now hearing myself. All right, let's try this then. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No, it doesn't work. Yeah, I can, but I just get a feedback loop again, so it's no good.
Oh, that's all right. Bye.
Have you? Hello. How do you do?
Hello?
Yeah, I just... okay. No, I just get a feedback loop if that happens. What the hell is wrong with these things? I mean, God, this is just appalling. We hear you both. Yeah, but I hear myself echoing back at myself. So apparently it's my audio settings. All right, I'll have to look into this for next time. I'm sorry, people. I'd love to get... I will try this next time and see if it works then, but or later. I'll try it again later. But it can't be my audio settings, because I went on a live stream on Tuesday, and I just signed in like this, and there was no problem. So I don't see why it would be my audio settings. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, the next question is from Traditional Culture Preservation, $5, and he says, "Do you subscribe to the language macro families theory, i.e. Nostratic, Amerindian? If so, why? Why not?" Well, I am not an expert, sir, in linguistics, and so all I can say about that is that it's you know, it's not my area, and you know, my understanding is that these are not broad things. I must say, it's quite good seeing what some of you look like. That's quite fun, even though I can't have you on and can't hear you because of this insanity. But yeah, so I know the Turanian theory. That's the one. But I know I'm not up on that theory. I'm not an expert on that. I don't feel like I'm qualified to comment on it. But so I will go with what the experts say. What is the best precise definition of ethnicity? Says Just Chat. Are Yorkshiremen and Devonians the same ethnicity? Why? Normally, the definition, well, there's a number of ways you can define ethnicity. One of them is that it's just genetics. So it's a subsection of race. So in the same way that a race is on its way to being a different species, an ethnic group is on its way to being a different race. So they're separated, they're endogamous, they vary in genotypic frequency, but it's less clear cut than is the case with races. So that's the way that a sociobiologist or an evolutionary psychologist would tend to define ethnicity. More broadly, there are other ways that ethnicity is defined. One of these is that it's a sense of shared blood, shared ancestry, shared culture, shared whatever. So that's one definition. Other definitions argue, some definitions argue that it is the jolly heretic silence, desktop speakers and put headphones on, that should solve the problem. Silence, I can't do all that now. I mean, I can't do all that. It has never been a problem before. I don't understand. I'm going to try it one time. Mute the stream before doing this. Mute the stream. Well, would you be able to hear me? I have muted the stream, sir. The stream. I can't hear the stream. I don't know how that would work. I'm only doing what I've done before, and it's not seemingly working. Okay, so there's different definitions anyway of ethnicity. But a big part of it is basically just, do you feel they are part of your family? It's almost like a feeling. Are they part of your family? Yorkshiremen and Devonians would regard themselves as English, and therefore they are both English. They are the same ethnicity. They have a sense of common ancestry. They have the same language. They are genetically more closely related. They see themselves as the same ethnicity, and therefore they are. So that's why. Okay, Just Chat says, why is there a consistent dislike of multiracial children through history in many cultures? Is there something wrong there? I'm not aware there is a consistent dislike of it, but I suppose the reason why that it would be that you have ethnocentrism, and with ethnocentrism you have to have a strong like of and the group that is high in ethnocentrism will tend to dominate in terms of group selection, and so the group that is high in positive ethnocentrism and high in negative ethnocentrism tends to dominate, and so being high in negative ethnocentrism means that the foreigners are bad, and so if the woman has had a child with a foreigner, i.e. mixed race, then that's a bad thing. She's a potential traitor to the group, and that's not a good thing, and so therefore they are a problem. They are an issue. They raise various psychological problems for the group, and they potentially, of course, would have to decide which side to be on in a time of war. Would they be on the side of the mother or the side of the father if the two groups came into conflict? So it raises these difficult issues. And so to the extent that you're right that multiracial children are disliked, and I'm not 100% sure that's true, but to the extent that you're correct, then I think that would potentially make sense of it. Pour soda over the speaker, trust me. Yeah, it's a sort of Homer Simpson way of dealing with it. Just chuck some beer over the microphone. It's most peculiar because, as I say, when I've been on other people's streams, or when I've had Michael on this stream using these headphones, it's been no problem. So I don't know whether it's something to do with the fact that a feedback loop was caused and that this just sort of goes on forever. I have to start again. I really don't know. As with Michael, once we got this feedback loop, then it just went on and on. It didn't matter what I did, and I shut the whole thing down and started again, and only then did it finish. I literally had to shut everything down, and I don't want to do that. So I think the solution is that when I have my next Jolly Heretic episode, will Michael ever return? I don't think so. No. Then we will have some people on then to ask questions. All right, the next question comes from Just Chat, and he says, multi-ethnic USA seemed to thrive from 1607 to the 1960s. Multiracial US, not so much. Why? Well, I think a big part of it is the difference, the genetic difference between the peoples. So we are evolved to want to pass on our genes indirectly, and we do so through cooperating with people that are genetically relatively similar to ourselves, including our own ethnic group, but also relatively similar ethnic groups. And it must be understood that in the general scheme of things, the genetic difference between the English, who originally settled America, and the Irish is not very large. Integrating the Italians was more complicated, and that is to be expected because the genetic distance is larger. So the larger is the genetic distance, the more you would expect people not to trust each other, the more you would expect people not to cooperate with each other, the more you would expect people to create ethnic ghettos and not integrate, the more you would expect people not to get on, basically, and fundamentally distrust each other, because it is, and they would understand unconsciously that it is decreasingly in their genetic interests to cooperate with these people. And so therefore you get a society with lower levels of cooperation. And so once you bring in people, and that's something that would happen even if it was multi-ethnic. So even if it was a society like Switzerland, you could potentially have that, or Belgium, you could potentially, or India, you could potentially have that problem. But we're talking about a society that is a multiracial, that is including people who are not only black, but who are Hispanic, which is a line between white and Native American, and also just from all over the place. And so what you would expect, based on Putnam's research, is that to a much greater extent than multi-ethnic, would lead to collapse in social trust, collapse in cooperation, and lots of fighting. And that, of course, is what we're seeing. So we in no way should be surprised by what is happening in America at the moment. America is having the problem which we would expect it to have, based on our based on these models by people like Tatu Van Nen and whatever. So we shouldn't be surprised by it. Okay, the next question comes from Thomas Cubitt. PG-13 editing and cozy language of natural history programs has created an egalitarian vision of Mother Nature, which becomes a religious green movement. Yeah, you may be right about that. As Thomas Hobbes said, nature is something in tooth and claw, and it is entirely true. Nature is brutal. I must say, I don't watch many wildlife programs these days. I don't watch much television because I decreasingly trust what's on television. I assume it's going to be a lie, which is of course consistent with the society becoming more polarized and that sort of thing. So I don't know what's going on, but you may be right that that's exactly what they do, that they censor nature to make it nicer, so that we have this Mother Nature sort of green movement. I don't know if that's correct, but that could certainly be the case. One thing that's noticeable is that you get far fewer films that are rated 18. So in England, you have the rating system was U, PG, parental guidance, U's universal. And then you have 15 and 18. And you don't get many 18 rated films anymore, because of course, if you make an 18 rated film, then you have to make then it's going to limit the audience. And so increasingly people just make the cuts that are required in order for it to be a 15 rated film. So therefore, dealing with particularly difficult issues, let's say, or is removed from the film or discouraged. So that's not necessarily good. Okay. Clifford Bates, hello, says best both of you. The based epitome says 4.99. Thank you, sir. The based epitome says, where do you think the next genius strategy civilization will take place? My personal view is that we would expect the light of civilization to pass before West Europe completely collapses. We would expect the light of civilization to pass to Eastern Europe. That is my, excuse me, I'm going to blow my nose. That's my view on it, because Eastern Europe has higher levels of cooperation, it's increasingly than the West. It doesn't have all of these problems with immigration, which reduce social goods and reduce cooperation. It doesn't have these problems with these mad ideologies, which push people in a maladaptive direction and in an anti-truth direction. And a lot of these Eastern European countries, not all of them, but a lot of them remain sufficiently, thank you, Philip, remain sufficiently religious that they have a conception of of not just of ethnocentrism, but of truth and the importance of truth and that sort of thing. And this is, of course, from a neo-Thomist perspective, is germane to creating a society which works. So I would suspect that the light of civilization will pass to Eastern Europe. As you know, I was made professor of the evolutionary psychology at an Eastern European university, a university in Poland. And I may well be one of the first academic refugees in that sense. And I suspect that there's going to be others. There's going to be many others, because we increasingly in the West, there is a cadre within academia whose purpose is not to create new knowledge or to understand the nature of the world in more depth, but it's just to ruin other people's lives. In fact, this is something that Noah Carl, my one-time colleague, tweeted about today. That's the job. I mean, the job of a lot of these grievance studies lecturers is A, to write pretentious stuff that makes them seem clever which doesn't really say anything about gender or race or whatever it happens to be, and B, to ruin other people's lives, to find people who are heretics, to be heretic hunters, to find people who are heretics within academia and drive them out of academia. I had my own case of this when I put up that review of Andrew Hosseini's ridiculous book, Superior, and there was this academic, I won't name her, you can find out who she is online easily, but this academic who approached the University of Oulu, at which I'm a docent, sort of adjunct senior lecturer, said to them, you know, this is outrageous. This person has said these outrageous things. This is outrageous. What are you going to do about it? And they were so frightened by this, being Finns that are not used to conflict, they put out a tweet saying, oh, well, we can't withdraw Ed Dutton's docentship. The law in Finland doesn't allow us to do so. As if to imply that they would if they could. And then they, a few months later, they removed me from their website, even though I am still a docent at the University of Oulu. There was a list of docents on the Cultural Anthropology Department website, and I was removed from the website, presumably because they didn't want people to Google me and quickly discover that I was connected to them in case I did something based and naughty. So basically, she tried to get me stripped of this position, which legally in Finland she couldn't. I might as well name her. She's called Jess Wade. Legally in Finland she couldn't, but in other countries perhaps she could and would. And so, you know, this is what's going on. That's that, and you don't have that problem so much in Eastern Europe. It's just not there. You have other restrictions on free speech in Eastern Europe that we don't have in England. I mean, you can't deny the Holocaust in Poland. That's a restriction on free speech. But of course, if you were to do that as an academic anywhere, then see how far you'd get. So, you know, it's a very, very severe problem. I'm terribly sorry that I can't have you on. I will try and sort this out and on. I will consult my good friend who is a computer expert. I have a number of them here in Oulu, but it's interesting to see what you look like. So, very long-haired, curly-haired man there called with an Irish name, and then a very long-haired, bearded man. And then people that I can't see what they look like. But a baby, look at that, a baby watches the Jolly Heretic. Isn't that lovely? Look at that, the future of the Jolly Heretic. Maybe if I can put that on without any sound. Don't say anything. There's a baby. Look at that. There's a baby watching the Jolly Heretic. There she is, or he is. And there we go. And then there's a man with a beard watching the Jolly Heretic. And look at that baby there watching the Jolly Heretic, enjoying the show. I'm very, very glad that baby, you are the future, my dear chap or chapess of basics and based science. So, you know, you go for it. And I'm very glad to see that my followers are breeding. That's good news. Okay, now, so if we move on to the next question, which is from James Barnett, £5, and he says, "Dear Professor, your thoughts on the work in anthropology and politics of the late David Graeber." David Graeber, as I recall, is a quite appalling individual who tried to have, I think he might have been one of the people that signed the anti-Noah Carl petition. I seem to recall that he was one of the people who, there was some kind of mathematics article, which he helped try to get removed. He was involved, as I recall, in Occupy Wall Street and stuff like that. We are the 99%. That's him. That was his idea. And as far as I'm concerned, he's quite appalling. And his damage to scholarship and to academia has been absolutely terrible. Direct action, anti-democracy, anti-free speech. A person who, in his activism, has done all he can to undermine real academia. I think I seem to recall he was involved in Extinction. I mean, yeah, he was involved in Extinction Rebellion. We're talking about an extreme left ideologue dressed up in the robes of science. And being a fast life history strategist, he, of course, has died young. So you know, there you go. But no, I absolutely appalling individual, quite appalling. I'm sure it's very sad for his family that he's passed away, but it is a good thing for science. It is a good thing for academia, and it is a good thing for people of you know, awful man, awful man. Okay, the next question comes from for posterity, and he says, in Canada, I was taught Canadian was not ethnic. England, Ireland, Japan are ethnic because people of Canada are from those ethnic genetic sources. Yes, that's right. I mean, the only people that in Canada one could say would be ethnic would be the native Canadians, and the various tribes there, in whatever you have there, the Native Americans from Canada and the Inuit in Canada, and I suppose that there's a Klein there whose name I can never remember as well. But no, yeah, you're right. The ethnic groups are defined as in these various ways. They have to have a shared history, shared genetics, shared culture, and whatever. On that basis, Japan would be an ethnicity, Ireland would be an ethnicity, England would be an ethnicity. The Canadians wouldn't be. There's borderline cases. So, for example, the Afrikaans. What are the Afrikaans? The Afrikaans are basically Dutch. They're Dutch people. But they've been separated from the Dutch for a sufficient period of time that you now have them regarding themselves as a separate ethnicity. And there's a degree to which that's true because you haven't had new Dutch immigration. So ethnogenesis can happen. New ethnic groups come about, and there's always going to be this grey area where is it an ethnic group, is it not an ethnic group? They would suggest that they are a separate ethnic group. They have become sufficiently different from the Dutch in culture, in genetics, in whatever, that they are a separate ethnic group. So if you go back to the 1930s, then people referred to the population of Afrikaners as just Dutch people. They were just Dutch. Winston Churchill's autobiography just talked about the Dutch, whereas now we talk about those Afrikaners and their language, which is very, very similar to Dutch, but is recognized as a separate language. A language, of course, being a component of ethnicity. I had a friend when I was at university in Holland who was Afrikaans, and she could understand Dutch. Where the Dutch, she came to Leiden University. She was studying medicine in South Africa, but she did a term in Leiden. And she could understand Dutch, but they could not understand her when she spoke Afrikaans. Okay, for posterity says, so a Canadian of British heritage, I feel betrayed by Britain being made multicultural, as the ethnic British are being dissolved at their source. Well, yes, I mean, there may come a point, in fact, there is already, there could come a point where there are parts of other countries that are more ethnically British than Britain. That point could come. Going on, have we got an Afrikaner watching here? Okay, that could come. The Boers are more Dutch than the Dutch. Well, no, I'm not sure that's true, sir, because the ethnic Dutch are Dutch, whereas the people that are recognised as ethnic Afrikaners are about 6% Khoi, or 6% non-white anyway, on average. So that's not quite so. But certainly it's true that there are parts of Finland that are, or communes in Finland that are more Swedish than any commune would be in Sweden, because Finland is less multicultural than Sweden. And so that is certainly the case. Okay, the next question comes from, I concur with you, though. I can see that would be upsetting for you, sir. Mr. Heretic, no, I've done that one. Biological communism sends 1 lev. Card coal, $2. Biological communism, Holland people tallest, IQ not tallest in gente blanco. Why? Gente blanco, white man. I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say there. You asked me why the Dutch aren't the highest IQ people in Europe. Is that the question? The answer, I suspect, is that the correlation between height and IQ is due to sexual selection. So it tends to occur within populations, but it doesn't mean that it's the case between populations. So people in Kenya are very tall, but it doesn't mean they have higher IQ than people who are Inuit, who are very short, or people who are Southeast Asian, who are very short. So that would be the answer for that. I'm just going through the questions for AA, which I did last time. Okay. A $1 trillion bill says, is Japan immune to global harm or just ignored by it? It is gradually coming there. So you have 2 problems that are occurring in Japan. You have increasing mutational load, of course, which is causing all of these various problems they have there. The herbivore men and all this stuff, and the lack of sex and all this kind of stuff. And also you have, but it's just they are more conservative, sort of congenitally. They are more because they're more K strategists. They are more ethnocentric. And so they are less inclined to be inculcated with these new ideas. They're less open to new things. And so it takes longer for new things, for new ideas, as you say, globo homo, to penetrate the society. And so I think that's why Japan, because it's higher genetically in ethnocentrism. You don't buy that answer. Well, all right, they are higher in ethnocentrism. And if they're higher in ethnocentrism, they're going to retain traditional values more. They're going to be, they're higher in conservatism as well. They're more opposed to, they're lower in openness than us. So they're more opposed to new things. They're more opposed to anything that's innovative. And they're more opposed to foreigners coming into the country, which undermines national trust. And so I think that's a big part of why it's been a slower process there. However, even though it has been a slower process there, and they have less of these problems than us, they are more messed up. I mean, they are having less sex. They are breeding. They're dying out. And I think that is because you have a situation of where they are highly K strategy compared to us, which means they are highly adapted to their environment, which means, and if the environment is therefore altered to create an evolutionary mismatch, that will mess them up more than it messes up people who are less K strategy. And so that's why I think even though they don't have multiculturalism there yet, really, they don't, apart from a few foreigners, they don't have anything like that. They are more messed up. They are less. They are not having sex. They are not breeding. It's appalling what's happening there. And I think that's one of the reasons for that. Okay, the next question comes from Steve Rogers. Hello, sir. And he says, have a based birthday. Why does it seem that mutations of the eyes, unevenness, are so common? Well, I think the answer is that I was looking into this. It is a common mutation. I mean, it is very uncommon to have completely symmetrical eyes. So I think the answer is that we look at the eyes. We are evolved to look at the eyes because we can judge emotion and whatever interesting things for us from the eyes. And so therefore we notice people's eyes more, and therefore we notice the unevenness of the eyes more than we might a very slightly crooked nose or a very slightly asymmetrical mouth or whatever. I think that's a big part of it, that we simply notice it. And secondly, unlike anything else on the face, apart from ears, there are two of them. And so, of course, we're going to, it's going to be much more conspicuous that eyes are uneven. So I think that's what's going on there. Okay, the next question is from Steve Rogers, $10. Thank you, sir. And he says, I am from a middle-class neighborhood, but often go to a lower one. I notice that everything goes wrong there more often. However, when confronted about this, many people say things like, this kind of stuff just happens everywhere. Are they in denial or unaware of things? Is this a sign many people won't fully notice or understand our collapse, namely the more minor or moderate aspects? Yeah, I mean, think about what it is that causes people to be of low socioeconomic status. So they have low intelligence, which means they're less aware of things and they understand things less. And therefore, they're less likely to understand that there are significant differences between them and other communities and why these are the case. They're less likely to think about these things because they're less systematizing. So they're more likely to just think it's the same everywhere. They're more likely to be uninterested in thinking about these things. So they're more likely to assume it's the same everywhere. And also people that are in these kinds of places are more likely to be impulsive. They're more likely to have aspects of high extroversion, which means that they tend to feel positive feelings strongly, which means they're sort of happy-go-lucky people, and they will find ways to be happy-go-lucky. So, and that's one of them. I've just received a book, a very interesting book actually, which I will show you, called Distance Guide to Blacks, which I was asked to do a dust jacket quote for on the back. And it looks at this: the people that are black are higher in extroversion. They're more happy-go-lucky. They're more happy, basically. They're less socially anxious. They're less anxious than our white people, and so they're more likely. Why is the audio so low? When it would turn it up, I don't know. So I think that's what's going on. All right, now, okay. Now, next question comes from Jacko Slapbass. He says, "Happy birthday, Ed. Hopefully this COVID bollocks will bugger off before long." I'm now on this week's questions. Bugger off before long, and we can meet at a PA conference. Were you at the last PA conference, Mr. Slapbass, if you were there? Yeah, I was supposed to be going to a conference of that nature in this month, actually, and it's been cancelled. And then I was supposed to be going to another interesting conference in the south of Finland, and it's been cancelled. And they've all been cancelled. So I'm looking forward to new normality. Although I have to say my concern, having been thinking about this, is that new normality will never come. Is that... in the same way that people will remember the marker of the collapse of Rome as being allowing the Visigoths and whatever into the gates of Rome, if this is the new normality, if this is it, if we will never find a vaccine for corona because we're not clever enough to do so, and because we don't promote genius, and because we suppress genius, and we drive clever people out of academia. And so we will never, ever find a vaccine. And therefore, we will live in this way for a very long time. And also that it will permanently damage the economy, that it will take 30 or 40 or 50 years to get back to where we were. And that in that time, intelligence will decline and multicultural strife will increase and whatever. And this is the end. This is the marker. It like the penetration of Rome, it will be a slow process, but this seems to me potentially like something. A cheery thoughts is all hands on deck. Yeah, is that this is the marker, this is it, and that it's never going to get back to normal, because we are so high in concern about people, about harm avoidance, and we're so low in group-oriented values, and so we're happy to completely annihilate group-oriented things in favor of this, and it's going to destroy, and it will mean then that you start to move backwards. So ultimately, business goes. Everyone's poor. There's not enough people working. We can't sustain them. The only way we can sustain them is by contracting. And then you start to see the end of that. It sucks to be young right now, says Elijah Wood, who unfortunately I couldn't have on earlier. Yeah, maybe I'm sure it does. Right, look, I'm going to try, chaps and chapesses, one more time to see if I can get this to work. And if it doesn't, I'm going to scream. There's no reason at all why there should be any feedback, because I've been on other people's streams, I've had other people on. There's no reason. It's doing it immediately. Immediately I plug it in, I'm hearing myself. I don't understand why that could possibly be the case. Oh, I do know why. Oh, I've got an idea of why. Okay, right, let's try again. Okay, I think I might have worked out the problem. I might. Okay, I might. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Ah! There we go.
Oh, excellent.
There we go. We did it. We did it, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason was entropy. The reason was entropy. I paused the entropy, and that is what did it. It was the playing of the entropy. There you go. Hello, sir. Hello, Matthew. So who are you? Tell me about yourself.
Obviously, I'm Matthew. I'm not disguising my name in any way. And I was just doing a bit of work and listening to you in the background. It was very entertaining.
Oh well, I'm glad you like the show, sir. And what kind of work do you do?
Oh, I'm a structural examiner, so I was writing up a bridge report.
Oh, okay, jolly good. So something useful to society. That's excellent news.
It's useful in any case. Always useful before the bridge actually falls down to look at it first.
And how long have you been a drinker at my pub?
Oh, I've since the very early days. I found your channel, and I can't remember how many subscribers you had at the time. How many do you have now? Oh, you're almost 50,000. I think when you were like 8,000 subscribers, I discovered your channel.
Oh gosh, so you've been a long time drinker at the Jolly Heretic. Well,
oh yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much for turning up for my birthday. You've got your what is that, 1664? Yes, that's jolly good. What are you, from the West Country or something?
No, I'm based in London.
Oh, you sound like you're from sort of down there a bit.
Yeah, I was born in London, and I've moved away a couple of times and returned.
Okay.
I've got these strange accents that doesn't.
You're a mixture of things. Okay. Well, thank you very much for celebrating my 40th birthday with me, and I will. All right. Cheers. Cheers. Okay. We next have Utvara. I know that name, Utvara. Utvara is not revealing himself. Hello, Utvara.
Hey, man.
Where are you from?
I'm from Croatia.
Gosh. Oh, actually, yeah. Perhaps you've written to me.
Your favorite clothing accessory, the cravat, is from here.
It is Croat. That's quite right. Although I was quite disappointed to discover that when I went to the island of Hvar and stayed there, I wanted to buy a genuine Croatian cravat. And you can't buy a genuine Croatian cravat on the island of Hvar. I was told you need to go to the main.
Well, the island of Hvar is kind of known for being a little bit more liberal. A lot of our artist types, philosophers come from that island. Our current prime minister, who is very, very left-leaning, comes from there. So it's a sort of a micro cluster where people lean to the left wing.
I see. Well, and how long have you been imbibing at the Jolly Heretic, sir?
I'm certain that I am around number 250. I'm like,
gosh.
Yeah, I saw you on your stream. No, like when you were a guest on the Red Ice.
Ah, yes, that was the thing. That was the thing that really took it off.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of people. I'm gonna have to move on, but thank you very much for your support, sir, and thank you very much for drinking at my pub.
Enjoy your birthday.
All right, goodbye. Yes. All right. Kick guest. Yes. All right. Okay. So next one. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me, sir?
I can. And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the sunny southwest of England, Mr. Dutton.
Oh gosh, yes. That sounds pleasant. That sounds good. And yes. Well, and how long have you been drinking here?
Quite a while. I believe I was one of the first subscribers. I actually knew of Dr. Michael Woodley prior to yourself, sir. I read his work on the social epistasis amplification model, and I didn't realize that his colleague, yourself, started a YouTube channel. So I decided I'd subscribe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, gosh, so one of the early ones. And what do you do for a living, if you don't mind my asking?
I work in logistics, sir.
What?
Logistics, haulage and transportation.
Oh, jolly good. All right. Well, thank you very much for turning up at the Jolly Heretic. I'm going to move on to the next. We've got a few people. All right,
that's fine. Okay. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. That's most kind of you. Okay. Okay. Right. The kick guest. I have to do this. All right. Okay. Right. This is now new for Sock Dead.
They make pistons.
That's great.
What should I tell them?
Try again. Add the stream. Hello, have you got me turned on?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. So where are you? Where are you from? Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You've got your ear right next to the camera. Where do you come from then?
America.
Oh yes. Whereabouts?
Midwest, Rust Belt.
Have you voted?
Yes, I have.
Because it's very important to the future of humanity, and as I'm told, to the future of, like, it's cosmically important. I mean, it's like the devil is being slain, apparently, according to a group called QAnon. So yeah. So all right, jolly good. And you're frozen. Oh no, it's not really working. I'm gonna have to. All right, okay. So, gosh, there's lots of people here. Kick guest. Okay, so I'm moving on to Thomas. We have someone called Thomas here. Hello, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Doing? I can, yes. I'm so glad I sorted this problem out because I thought it was absolutely appalling that I couldn't do this. And so, where are you calling from?
I'm from Glasgow, Scotland.
Oh, God, you poor bugger. You're in a society where it will soon be illegal in your own house to say based things to your wife.
Yeah. Well, I'm in student accommodation right now, so.
Well, I don't think that's going to help. That's not going to save you. If anything, that'll make it worse. So, are you at the University of Glasgow?
No, I'm at City of Glasgow College doing mechanical engineering.
Good, something useful. Something useful. That's excellent news. That's excellent news.
Yeah.
And all right,
I've been watching you for a while.
Sorry if I. Yeah. So, are you locked down? Can you like go out?
Sort of. I mean, you can go out, but the problem is there's all kinds of limits, so it's just no fun.
Oh, dear. No, it's no good.
We find ways to have fun here in the accommodation, though.
Yeah, I appreciate. What loose girls? And, yeah, I see. All right, I've got to move on because there's a lot of people. But I'm so glad to get to know you all. Oh, what's this then? Oh, oh dear me. That is. Yeah. And, there we go. Oh, wow, crikey. Wow,
I'm a fan.
I'm very glad. I'm very glad. Thank you very much, sir. All right, thank you. All right, okay. Goodbye. Okay, I have to kick you from stream because otherwise there's all these people you see that want to come along. Okay, now we are back to this is the long-haired man with the baby. And hello, sir. And where are you then?
I'm from America, and I live around Buffalo, New York.
Okay. And have you voted? This is very important.
I'm voting on the 3rd.
Good idea. Of course, it's no good to you. I mean, they won't win your state, but I mean, even so, it's worth doing it.
Oh yeah, there's no.
And how old is this? What is this boy?
He's a boy. His name's Lachlan, and he's about 3 months old.
Oh, good. Well, we like to see the future of humanity being protected here on the Jolly Heretic.
He already talks. He talks a little bit already. He's very ahead of his time. It's very
Excellent.
big. He's in the 92nd percentile.
We are all ahead of our time here on the Jolly Heretic. We're looking towards the next 100 years, rather than now. Very. How long have you been an imbiber here at our public house?
A very long time. I'd say I don't really know, over a year at least.
Oh, jolly good. All right, jolly nice to talk to you. I'm gonna go through. There's lots of people, so I'm gonna go through them all. Okay. So next we have the gentleman that I tried to talk to earlier. I'm terribly sorry, sir. I'm
don't worry about it.
No, I'm so sorry. It was entirely my fault. It was a trad thought boomer tech thing. So there you go. So,
I've seen a few of them. I've been watching for a year and a half. So it's not the first boomer moment we've had.
Very, very far from the first. Very far from the first. So where are you calling from, sir?
I'm in China at the moment.
Oh, crikey. Why?
Just working here in an experimental school, and being China, we're experimenting on the students.
Yeah, be careful. Be careful what you said now. So, but you're from Ireland, yeah?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
So I should give you a Rob Jehamaha got. Happy birthday in Irish.
Thank you very much. God, what's Irish for thank you?
Garamaha got.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm very, very pleased to have people watching the Jolly Heretic from all around the world. I'm going to have to be very quick because there's all these people.
No problem.
But thank you very much. Okay. So the next we have Bogdan. Hello, sir.
You all right?
I am all right. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
Are you? Where are you? Where are you from then?
Well, I'm in Bristol now at uni, but realistically, I'm just a yob from Middlesbrough.
Well, I used to pass along that way 20 years ago on the way to university.
Yeah, well, actually, I started watching when you did the video on autism, and you said in that you had an autistic friend, and you did go to uni in Durham, and
that's right.
Something about Stockton's Malware.
I remember. Well, yeah, Middlesbrough was near Stockton. Yeah, I remember. He used to go to Stockton. He used to go to Stockton and get drugs because drugs were cheaper in Stockton. And then take them to Durham where drugs were more expensive and then sell them. That was the situation with Alex. Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I hope all goes well with your studies in Bristol. It's a nice place. Thank you, whoever sent that in. Well, I can't read this. This is I'm telling you, this is an unusual episode of the Jolly Heretic. But so thank you very much, and I hope all goes well with your studies and it's not too ghastly. You're frozen. Okay, I'll remove you. So the next is Mr. Elijah Woods. No, that's removed. That one. I'm terribly sorry. It was all my fault. It was bad, and you were in the right. And sorry. Right. Hello, sir.
Hello. That's quite all right. I'm really excited to talk to you.
How do you do? And thank you for your various super chats and your support for the channel and whatever. So where are you? Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Central Texas right now.
Ah, yes. Yeah. And how long have you been a drinker at our public house?
Oh man, about a year. I've been following you actually since 2018.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I was doing then, but yeah, I was in my 30s, of course. I'm going to be in my 40s quite soon, which is why
I'm half your age. I just turned 20 recently.
Gosh, you young, it's just embarrassing. Imagine that. That means that from your perspective, I was born in 1960, which is like a person's mum, if that person's mum is a slut.
Yeah, you could be my dad.
I could. If I was your dad, then I would be probably like a bit of a yob, but I would be your dad. That's I'd have like a dog tied up outside my trailer, that sort of thing. But yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to meet you, and I shall move on to the next chap. Okay, the next chap is laughing, and he's called Husky. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. And he's got the YouTube turned on, despite my specific instruction not to do that, both this time and last time. He hasn't listened. He seems to be in some kind of trance.
All right, I have to turn off the TV. Sorry, I have
YouTube sound off. Good. So, how do you do?
What do I do for a living? I'm a chimney sweeper.
Are you really?
I really, yes. Wait, I've got my hat right here next to me on the couch. See?
That's your chimney sweep hat, is it? Yeah. Okay. You have a very clean face. I assume that.
I showered after work, obviously.
You're British, though, and we don't really have much in the way of chimney sweeps in Britain, do we? I think you're joking. But
no, I live in the Netherlands. I live in Holland. You know, I don't live in Holland, but as the rest of the world knows it.
You know, I see. Yes, I know. I lived in Holland myself, so I know that whole thing of like what Holland really is, and they would go on about that. So are you actually Dutch?
Half. My father's British, my mother's Dutch.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, it's a good place. It's a good place. The only thing I recall in the Netherlands was there was a lot of dog shit in the streets, which we had. This is 17 years ago when I lived there, but we didn't have that then. It had gone, but there was a lot of dog shit in the street in Holland.
There still is.
There still is. There's oh shit, shite. Oh, but what was it? Because they say that it was a term of affection in Dutch, isn't it? Shitja, man, shitja. It's like my darling.
Oh yes, shitja.
Shitja. It's like my darling.
Yes, it is.
You would be nice to your wife. You call her shitja. My shitja. Yeah, and then the rudest word is kanker, which is odd as well. Yes, I know. But it was a jolly interesting place. Okay, well, I'm glad to see that I have viewers from the Netherlands. I will thank you. Nice to talk and all that. Okay, now Yes. Yes. Okay, Victor. We have now. I want to move on to this chat because hello. So it was all my fault, and I'm a twat, and I'm terribly sorry.
No, no, it's grand. Like,
I was telling you to do this, that, and the other, and it was all because of the old entropy. Anyway, hello, sir. Where are you bringing him from?
hello. I'm in Ireland. Speaking to you from Ireland.
Ireland. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Yes. Yes. Whereabouts?
In County Galway. Won't get
Oh,
more
yes, I've
specific
been
than
there
that.
myself. I've been to Galway. I've been to Yates's house and all that. And what do you do, if you don't mind asking?
I'm in college, like.
What?
Taking a year off. I'm in college, but I'm taking a year off.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm glad to see that the Jolly Heretic is entertaining you in your year off. And I hope it's.
You have the funniest channel on YouTube, man. Funniest
Oh,
political
thank
channel.
you very much indeed, sir. I'm
I love your
most
skits.
pleased.
Like they're gas. Like.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to hear that's the case. Okay, well, thank you, Mo, and very nice to meet you and all that. All right, goodbye. Okay. Now, the next person is Victor. I'm going to do a few more, and then I might have to wrap up. The next person I'll do a few more is Victor Bass. And hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Where are you ringing in from?
I'm ringing from southwest of England.
Okay, people are the kind of people who don't want their faces on are quite non-specific. What's up with you then?
Well, I'm studying coding, but I was wondering, do you think that those drinkers at the Jolly Heretic should give their kids upper-class names such that they might not be discriminated against in job applications and such like?
I would imagine it's not a particularly brilliant idea to give people silly names. So I met this couple once in Wisley in Surrey, and their daughter was called Tiger Sky. I thought, for goodness sake, what do you think people are going to react like to be presented with a CV from Tiger Sky Smith? In fact, there's actually data indicating that it's not a good idea. So now I would say give people sensible, traditional names.
And how many do you think they should have?
Well, if they're supporters of the Jolly Heretic, they should have as many as possible, really.
Sounds good.
I think that's a good idea. All right, thank you, sir. Okay, the next chat we're having on here, I do a few more. The person said I'm not going to answer your super chat. I might do. Remember, it's a special birthday edition, and so I'm. I could be in the mood. I don't know how. My wife has agreed that I can sleep in tomorrow and don't have to get up to put the kids to school. So I could go on for a while. Okay, the next chap is Sock. Whereabouts? Why is it black? I've just put this person on. I don't understand.
Black.
Why is it? It shouldn't be black. Remove. Right. Add to stream. No, it's still black.
I'm in college.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, can you hear me?
And hello, sir. You're American. You're American, yes?
Yes, I am American.
You look American. You look American. There's something about the general look and the fact that it's not dark.
My countenance.
So that might have been your countenance and the level of light. Whereabouts in America are you, sir?
The Midwest.
The Midwest.
Amish country, to be specific.
Oh yes, Amish country. Ohio and around there, and Pennsylvania. I liked Amish country when I was there. I was in Intercourse, Pennsylvania. Yes, and what do you do for a quid?
I'm an ethical hacker.
That's an excellent profession. You could help us out. Get in touch with me email me, and we could find some people you could ethically hack. I think that would be an excellent idea. All right, I'm going to how long have you been imbibing at our public house?
Since 2019.
Oh, so you're an early one. You've been drinking here a long time. It's fascinating to meet. For me, it's really fascinating. It's really all right. I'm going to have to move on because there's a lot of people. But ethical hackers get my votes, says somebody. Yeah, precisely. The ethical hackers like the Hunter Biden sort of. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I have to do this thing. Kick from studio. Right. We're doing. Moving into Midwit's commune now. Hello, sir. Peace, and Abyssinia.
Hello, sir. It's such a privilege and a pleasure to be here.
Oh, well, it's a privilege and a pleasure to have you here and to know what the viewers, what the imbibers at Jolly Heretic are like. And what do you, what's going on in your life at present?
Well, I'm trying to be a musician by night, and I work over day. It's just a normal job. So, and I like your stuff.
Oh, thank you. And where are you from?
I'm from the Netherlands, but I'm not originally Dutch.
Oh, what are you?
Algerian.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Is that the place that has restricted currency, or is that Tunisia, that you can't take the money out of the country?
I have never heard of that before.
Maybe that's Tunisia. Maybe that's Tunisia.
Probably.
I think so. I think so. All right. Well, Jolly nice to talk and all that. And
thank you.
I'm going to do a few more. I said I'm not under pressure tonight because normally, thank you. Normally I'm under pressure. And we've got a couple. I'm going to put them on.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy birthday.
Turn down the thing.
Yeah, it's done. I think so.
Oh, sir and madam. And, where are you calling from then?
Paul, Dorset.
Oh yes. Oh, I said that you live in Bournemouth, and we once had a fair bit to drink and drunkenly walked from Bournemouth to Paul. So,
Everybody does. Along the pier.
Along
the thingy, yeah.
So it can be done. It can just about be done. Okay. And how long have you been drinking at my public house?
Myself, quite a long time. A long time. I don't know exactly how long. I got Dimpy into it. She loves it.
Yeah, I love you, Ed. Here's a little heart for you.
Oh, that's extraordinarily kind of you.
I do. We are a mixed race couple, so you know.
We have children with low mutational load.
We have what?
He's talking about the low mutational load that our children will have.
Yes.
According to history, the television's about to come on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, turn the telly off, man.
Happy birthday, Ed.
Yeah, Ed. Happy birthday. I love you. You're amazing.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye. Cheers. Bye. Bye. Okay, and then we have one more person coming on, and this is such deep interest in such things. And hello, this is No Name.
Cheers, Ed. Happy birthday. Cheers. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.
I occasionally bother you with emails, sending random things to you under my Tutor Nota email, large in charge. The last one I sent you was about neotenous mutation. That was quite an interesting one. Might be worth a chat about.
Yes, it could be. Yes, I'm trying. I don't recall. I'll have to look into that. Okay. Nice to chat to you and all that. I'm going to go on to the next person, which is Dinah. And hello, madam.
Hi, Ed. Happy
Hello,
birthday.
Madam. Thank you very much indeed.
I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday and just say that I'm a young black girl from London, 21-year-old. And I just wanted to say that you have fans like far and wide, and I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday.
That's most kind of you. Yes, I'm quite glad. That's jolly good. And so, how long have you been drinking at the old Jolly Heretic?
Oh, for a long time. Like when Michael was on, I discovered you like 2019 potentially, I think.
Oh yeah, okay. And so you're from my kind of area. You're from London, South London.
Yeah. I live near Waterloo.
Oh yeah, okay, you're right. Okay, yeah, okay, very good. All right, well, thank you very much for calling in and all that, and I hope you continue to enjoy drinking at our public house. And
Happy birthday! Bye.
Bye. Okay, all right. Now here's the thing, chaps and chapesses. I have a very special guest for you on Monday. And that special guest is Mike McCulloch. I'm glad it is mental, McDonald. Mike McCulloch. Mike McCulloch is a physicist at the University of Portsmouth who they've tried to cancel and who is, rather based, I suppose, really, and who challenges the idea of dark matter. And for reasons I'm fascinated to know why, challenging dark matter is a bad thing. Challenging dark matter is not politically correct. So I'm fascinated to know why this is the case. So I'm having this gentleman on Monday. But just before you leave, someone else has just walked in, so I'll just say hello.
Yo.
Hello, sir, and where are you ringing from?
Hello. Yeah, I'm from southeast England. Wait, south.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what do you do for a living?
Really, I just sell stuff on the internet, you know, like online reseller, like eBay, that kind of stuff.
You sound like a geezer. You a geezer?
Really? I'm not sure. I just talk about sometimes online, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, God, nice talking all that. Okay, and then finally, we have a chap here called Stop Dead.
Hello.
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 Hi.
Hey, sorry to come back in. I actually had a question for you.
Yes.
My question was, do you think that the combination of mutagenic loads from two partners of different races can actually produce different genetic defects like dwarfism or gigantism, which might actually be produced by different races interbreeding?
It's possible, because the problem is that these various alleles cooperate with each other, and so they have done so for less time. If they've done so for less time, then it's more possible that things that are peculiar could occur. But it depends. If it's something that is based on one faulty gene, which a lot of these things are, then it wouldn't make a difference, would it? But if it's based on lots of genes cooperating, so I would think that gigantism would be based on one faulty gene. So probably
as opposed to a coalition.
As opposed to cooperation between alleles, yeah. Okay, nice talk to all that. Goodbye. All right, now, we will be here on Monday at 7 p.m. UK time, where we will speak to Dr. McCulloch about all kinds of naughty things. And so I will see you then. And I'm sorry for the various trad thought things that have occurred. I will see you then. And I will answer your various super chats at that point, of course, if I haven't got around to them yet. And goodbye!